Hey, what's up everybody? It's LegendJeremy. Well, the nerfs to Small Time Buccaneer and Spirit Claws have finally taken place. And these changes needed to happen, and I'm so glad that they are. The February meta absolutely sucked. It was so frustrating. Honestly, I hated Hearthstone for long stretches of time last month because just the meta was just so stale and it was so much of the same thing. Aggro warrior, aggro shaman, everybody playing pirates. I wanted to have fun. I wanted to play new and exciting, control decks or mid-range decks. And it's just like the incredible fast pace, 1-2, it's just, sometimes there was just no opportunity to experiment and have fun because everyone's playing the same decks. And so I'm glad that they've dealt with some of these early game problem cards. And they needed to happen. Now, first, I wanted to say that I appreciate the fact that Blizzard did not obliterate these cards that they've done in the past. They absolutely ruined cards like Molten Giant. The worst one is War Song Commander. Like, they obliterated those cards so that no one plays them anymore. And I'm glad that they didn't do that. Small Time Buccaneer is still a good card. It still brings out patches. It still can be a 3-1 attack on your next turn, potentially, which is really good, but it's more fair now. So, thumbs up on the changes, and I'm very happy that they took place. But I'm not convinced that this is really solving the issue. I think that we're going to experience the same thing over again. I've been playing Hearthstone since the first season, and it seems to be a pattern that Blizzard is just too slow to respond to unhealthy metas and overpowered cards. Talking about cards that seem to be just dominating the meta in lots of decks or sometimes in all decks, it seems like. Let me give you an example. There were two cards that were just played in so many things. Like Dr. Boom was almost in every deck. Didn't matter if you were a control deck or even an aggressive deck, you often had Dr. Boom in your deck. Another card was Piloted Shredder. Just so much power for such a low cost. And these cards were played in so many decks. But Blizzard never responded to them. They waited the 2 years until they went from standard to wild and just never touched them. If you deal with something like Spirit Claws, which is fair at 2 mana, but completely overpowered at 1 mana. The fact that they took 7 months to respond to that's too slow. And that's one of their better responses, to be honest. Now, I don't want to be completely unfair. They responded to Small Time Buccaneer in 3 months, but that's unheard of in their history. They usually take a long time, or they never respond to their nerfs and just wait until they move out. I mean, it's just too much. I mean, we can even talk about cards like Flame Waker for a time. That should have been dealt with too. There's lots of cards that just they created such unhealthy metas and were just too overpowered, and they should have brought back to more fair stats. So I love the fact that Blizzard has not been recently obliterating cards, and I like the fact that it seems that whenever they do a patch or whenever they do an announcement of some upcoming changes, they seem to be headed in the right direction. But the one thing that I see them constantly failing in is just not responding and nerfing cards to deal with unhealthy metas fast enough. Lately, I've felt a lot of frustration with Hearthstone, and I'm not the only person. There's been a lot of people who have been very, not enjoying this meta. A person like one of the best players in the game, Life Coach, just recently announced that he's not going to be playing Hearthstone ladder, like streaming it anymore. He's moved on to another game. Not 100% quitting, but just it's not his thing anymore, and just because he's frustrated with numerous aspects like this where Blizzard is not responding well. Like, he's offered a lot of feedback to them, but just and I Tice has said the same thing. There's been just certain, there's a lot of Hearthstone pros and people speaking into Blizzard and just saying, these are the problems, or we're playing this game 8 hours a day or whatever, and these are the issues, but Blizzard just isn't implementing these changes. They're not responding to the criticism and the constructive feedback that they're getting, and they're just been stuck in the old habit ways. Now, like, once again, I don't want to just completely rain on them because like these are better changes than in the past. But I think that the one thing that Blizzard really needs to do is they need to respond quicker. Now, I do have one other suggestion that I think is just that kind of contributes. If you notice, like, the problem with small time Buccaneer is the same problem with the Undertaker card, which was one of the most unhealthiest metas ever. And the problem is that it's a one drop. And when you have an overpowered one drop, it's the same with Spirit Claws too, because when you have an overpowered one drop, you can make it so that the game is decided within the first few turns. And that shouldn't be the case. That is a very unhealthy meta when you can't even respond. When after your first couple turns, it's good game. It's game over. I mean, with Undertaker, it was the worst because, you know, they just drop, you know, Undertaker, sometimes coin Undertaker into a Death Rattle card, game over. Like, there's just no coming back from that. And Small Time Buccaneer wasn't quite at that place, but it still has the same thing where if they had the right 1 and 2, and sometimes 3, the game is just decided. Barring a miracle, there's no coming back. And that type of thing should not happen. So I wish that also Blizzard would take more care to make sure that the early game stuff, ones absolutely, and twos to an extent too, that there's just not too much power with these low cost cards so that games aren't decided early, so that your opponent has at least the opportunity to play something or to have a couple extra draws so that he can have an opportunity to respond. Okay guys, those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear what you think though, so make sure you leave a comment down below, and until next time, you keep grinding.